I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't see any, I don't have a mic.
Hello.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
Seeing no members of the public here, I will jump right to the consent agenda. Apparently, let's see, the only item on the consent agenda is the minutes from two sets of minutes, February 10th and February 24th. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull from the consent agenda? Could we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda. I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Tonight we are here primarily for two items that will come up in a few minutes. Just to quickly summarize what happened last night, because we were not on camera last night, the school committee met with representatives from the three-member towns to discuss the budget situation. There is a tentative agreement to postpone the vote on our final budget until the end of March. We will have a meeting on the 23rd of March where we will discuss any budget issues that have come to light between now and then, and we will have a final vote on the budget on March 30th. This is done to allow everyone who is involved in preparing the budget and more time to get information from the state and to get their own budgets prepared in each of the three towns. We have to formally ask the town's boards of selectmen to change the final budget date from March 15th to March 31st. So could we have a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion to approve making a formal request to the town's Board of Selectmen that the due date for the submission of the final budget be extended from March 15th to March 31st, 2016.
Thank you. Could we have a second on that?
Second.
Dick, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Next item, to authorize the Personnel Negotiation Subcommittee to seek agreement on a teacher early retirement program for the current school year only.
I make a motion.
Could we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have a question. Could we have some understanding what this is about?
We certainly could.
Yes, it's not the case every year, but occasionally when we need to make reductions in expenditure, it's worthwhile looking at incentivizing early retirement, in part because if very experienced teachers right at the top of a long scale leave, even though they continue to have health benefits, teachers who are coming in at where we typically appoint them would still leave some savings to the district. This year, when at the current stage there are 9 elementary school teachers positions that will be cut, when we look at what's called the seniority list, the most experienced teachers, within those that have 23 years of service, there are 9 elementary school teachers who might take early retirement. And if they do take early retirement, we don't have to let go a younger teacher. And so we have the opportunity to let somebody who would like to retire to go and retain a younger teacher. And in retaining the younger teacher, we don't have any unemployment liability if we have to let them go. Looking at the profile of the most senior teachers this year, it looks as if there is some real potential for achieving those 3 goals. We've initially looked at 25 years of service, and that is 25 years of service in this district, not 25 years of service anywhere. We're still looking to see whether there may be merit in extending it to those with 23 years of service. And we've yet to address the situation of what about part-time faculty, how they might fit into such a scheme. It would be necessary to make sure that downstream the district didn't have any financial liabilities. So it will be a requirement that if they receive the payment, it would only when they've demonstrated that they have paperwork that confirms that they have retired from the Massachusetts Teachers Retirement System. Looking at it together, Brian and I feel that this is something where we could A, make some savings, B, allow some people to retire who really want to retire, and very importantly, maintain some younger teachers and not letting them loose. So what we're asking this evening is, the Finance Committee has looked at this, the P&N has looked at this in principle, and we're asking for the authority for the P&N Committee on Friday to meet with the TRTA to see whether or not we can reach an agreement on this. Has it been done before? Yes. In another place on Cape Ann. 1 year we did that, and it was very successful. And it's very important to know that this is a one-year deal. It isn't something that we would offer every year. It's only when circumstances look as if it's going to be a win-win for a number of people and the district that we would suggest that we should look at this.
And can you share with us what the incentive is?
At the moment, we're talking about $20,000. That's taxable, and it can't add anything to their retirement benefits. So it doesn't actually increase their retirement benefit.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Unanimous? Thank you very much. Either Christopher or Brian, is there anything else that you would like to?
If I could raise one thing, and you may think this is special pleading, but it's not. I would like you to consider either this evening or when you meet next week the position of the coordinator of teaching and learning. The holder of this position is an extremely talented young person, both technically and in terms of the interpersonal skills that somebody who's working with teachers on a regular basis in the area of curriculum, instruction and assessment, this person has it and is really exceptional. For me, it's about the kind of intellectual capital of the district to be able to take a strategic view to support teachers as we move forward. As the superintendent-elect has looked at the shape of his management team, he's making some changes. He's asking the CAO to take on responsibility for instructional technology. Chief Academic Officer doesn't currently have that responsibility. Last year, we cut about a 0.67 position in terms of early childhood responsibilities. The Chief Academic Officer is essentially managing that program. She has some very limited support, but she is now managing that program. And there's a real danger of the Chief Academic Officer being a pusher of paper rather than somebody who is able to work with, I'm going to call it an assistant, who is free to work with principals and teachers in order to help move our practice along. The holder of the position has demonstrated a capacity to work alongside and gain the confidence of middle school teachers and high school teachers. Now, they are not easy people to convince that somebody has got something to offer them that is going to help them improve their practice. This person has that capacity. In the 20 years I've been a superintendent, I would think that this person is one of the top 3 in terms of young administrators that I've had the opportunity to appoint and work with and develop. So this is really asking you to take a strategic decision this evening or next week as to whether or not we retain that capacity to influence the development of the system, or leave the chief academic officer on her own with her very wide responsibilities without somebody to work with, essentially boots on the ground, working with teachers to move the system forward. Now, I'm speaking as your current superintendent. I don't know whether Brian would like to add anything to that, because it'll be his shop when this budget is implemented.
I don't know that I have anything to add as far as an argument for. I mean, certainly as Christopher said, I support this as a concept. And it's been interesting to have discussions over the past week with folks ranging from town officials to town employees to parents and community members about the understanding of positions. And there was this false notion that we've added administrator support over the years. And the reality is, if you look back 10 years, we had an administrator of elementary education, we had an administrator of secondary education, we had an early childhood coordinator that retired a year and a half ago and we didn't replace, and we had a special programs coordinator. So at this point, none of those 4 positions exist. We have a chief academic officer in the current position we're speaking about, and then there's some part-time folks that are filling in the gaps. I see that things can and will have to start to drop, and they're balls that need to be maintained if we are going to make sure that we have a quality program, especially when we're talking about the folks that we are introducing for the first time to our district, when we're enrolling preschool parents and kindergarten parents. That process needs to be done well. So I certainly support
I'm
everything
bringing this to you
said.
because I know that the holder of the position is applying for jobs. I spoke to the superintendent of one of the districts where the person is applying. They know all about the lady, and they know she's good. And so my concern is that if we don't take steps to kind of secure her for next year now, we might lose her and then find that we still have the resources to have kept her. And frankly, I would look very hard at cutting some other things to keep this person in the district, because I think that she is such a valuable person in terms of the long-term development of the... I think she's a future superintendent. So I'm not asking you to do... I'm briefing you now. If you feel comfortable reacting now, that's fine. If you have questions, we'll do our best to answer them. But I don't want you to feel that you've been bounced into something.
So my initial question to the committee is, would you want to ask questions and make a decision tonight, or would you prefer to ask questions and make a decision next week?
I have a lot of questions about this. I don't think my mic is on. I have a lot of questions about this, so I would like to deliberate so that I can ask the questions next week and maybe get some more background on this, because honestly, I'm kind of confused about this, because I thought we had this position in place, and I don't remember saying that we were going to cut this position.
That's true. But my concern is that that position is not going to be cut. But if downstream a decision was made, and this person has lost the opportunity to apply for jobs
Oh, I see.
she'd be able to apply for, I would feel badly about that.
So you're anticipating that this is a possibility because of the budget deliberations that we still have to do?
I don't really think so, because I think that some of the things that we're now doing around the discussions over health insurance, and if this early retirement scheme comes through, we expect that to make some savings, that will generate some savings downstream.
Paul?
I sort of feel like Mickey the Dunce. I've heard everything you said, but I can't get my arms around what exactly would happen. Are we creating a new position?
No.
Are we giving this person a new title?
No.
I know she's going to work with the chief academic officer, but
This person is in her second year. Last year, she was the position was going to be cut, and it was listed as going to be cut. She started applying for jobs, and then very quickly there were some savings made that enabled us to say, "You're good. We're keeping you." We're now in the second year, where she's now got another year's experience, and establishes her credibility in terms of her professional work. And she's got a husband, and she's a mom, and they've got some kids, and so she's clearly got to look after her own professional and financial future. So it's not a new position. It's if you remember, we lost one last year when Dan Jewett went to Newbury. So this is the only real professional person who is supporting the chief academic officer in her work. It's not a new position. We did retitle it slightly because she was a differentiation specialist before. I can tell you that there is one teacher currently in the district who is in good standing, who, but for her work, was likely to be let go on grounds of not incapacity, but ineffectiveness. She turned that individual around.
I'm just trying to clarify, perhaps. I think this position has not been cut in the current budget, and I think, Christopher, you're asking us to support keeping it in the budget going forward. Is that what?
That's correct, yes.
Because of the timing of, we're in the hiring season, so
Right.
as we go through, we've now delayed this till March
Right, so
31st,
this
which is a good
not a
thing.
new expense, not a new position. It exists now. It's not being cut, and you would like us to say we would support it going forward, either tonight or next week.
Correct.
Is it possible for us to see a copy of the job description for this for next week, so that it might give us a better idea of what the scope of the job is, so that we can make a more informed decision, even though it's not on the chopping block, but there seems to be questions about exactly what this job entails. It might be helpful.
And I understand, I know the person, I know who you're talking about, and I understand. It almost makes us look like we're going to solidify and put in concrete a certain person in a certain position, and I think that could create some animosity among the teachers. Since it's already in the budget, and we've yet to finalize the budget, we can do our best during that process to make sure that we keep the people that we want to keep, as opposed to making it appear that we're going to keep this person no matter what. And I think that could cause more problems than it would solve.
Could I just say, sometimes leadership has got to make those difficult decisions.
And I understand. I understand.
And it's the position, too. It's the position. When, in any case, when we're talking about that, the person may be valuable who's in the position, but it's the position
Right.
that gets kept.
And I have no problems with further discussion about it, but, there's a yin and yang to that.
So we'll put this on the agenda for next week. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for considering it.
Next item on the agenda is the Pine Grove School Building Committee. To note appointments made by the Raleigh Board of Selectmen and to appoint the school committee's representatives to the Pine Grove School Building Committee. I think we have a handout.
You do. You received a handout tonight. It's 4 pages, double-sided, 2 sheets. The first page on the reverse side is the template directly from the Massachusetts School Building Authority. We have worked with our council and the town council to solidify exactly who these members are. Again, because we are the school district, but the town owns the structure, it is an appointee of the selectmen that is the CEO. The town administrator is the Rowley town administrator. The finance committee member is a Rowley finance committee member. So we've gone through and determined legally who these folks need to be. So this is a template form letter that we'll have to submit off to the Mass School Building Authority. The front side of the second page is an email that I had confirmed as of yesterday from Deb Egan, the town administrator in Rowley. You can see there the votes were taken for 6 members. They appointed Joseph Perry as the chief executive officer or CEO, Debbie Egan obviously as the town administrator, you'll see on the form, they need a representative of the office authorized by law to construct school buildings. That again, that office is the Board of Selectmen. They appointed Clifford Pierce as a selectman. Finance Committee representation will be Larry White. Someone within the town who has architectural engineering construction experience, that is Dennis Roy. He is also on the Finance Subcommittee, or Finance Committee, I should say. And then there's an opportunity to add other members, and they appointed Karen Summit, who is the treasurer-collector for the town. So if you then turn the page, on the back you have a color-coded chart of what we need to do tonight. The green is what I listed for you on the other side of the page. Those are the items that needed to be appointed by the town. The yellow are members that need to be appointed by you as the school committee. Again, just to confirm, these are roles that need to be filled. It doesn't, if it's not a distinct role where it says superintendent of schools, one person can fulfill multiple roles. Obviously, this committee is starting to get big, so we don't want a committee of 20, or it would be near impossible to get anything done. So again, the folks who need to be appointed by you as the committee, there needs to be a school building committee member who is also MCPPO certified. I am MCPPO certified, so I would suggest that I'm the one that's appointed there, unless you have other ideas. School committee members, it says at least one. You as a committee could decide 1 member, 2 members, 3 members. It could be the 3 members from Rowley. It could be however you want to decide that. There is no formula of how that is determined. Superintendent of schools, obviously, is Christopher.
Could I just interject, Brian? When we talked with the MSBA, they did agree that given the circumstances here in terms of succession, that I could delegate or you could appoint Brian to be essentially superintendent-elect, rather than my starting a process with a building committee and then handing over to Brian some way down. I'm not shirking responsibility. I just think that would make for, once a committee gets going, it kind of develops its own character, and changing people partway through can sometimes be unhelpful. So I'm suggesting that in this case, Brian has 2 jobs, one to be the MCPPO certified person, and he does have a thing hanging in his office that proves that he is qualified to do that. And similarly, he's there as in fact not the de jure but the de facto superintendent of schools.
And you could also, I think, because these are positions, you could also appoint the position. So you could say the superintendent of schools is the superintendent of schools, and also I believe you could appoint the SBC member who is MCPPO certified. We're certainly looking for my successors as we currently stand, and would hope that there is someone who is currently MCPPO certified or would be on their way. If not, I would be the superintendent on the board, and I would fulfill that role anyway. But I would certainly suggest that the school business official is a member of this committee as well. The local official responsible for building maintenance, I would suggest Christopher Walsh, manager of facilities and grounds. School principal, obviously Christine. And then there's the member knowledgeable in educational mission and function of facility. We could add a separate member. I would say that is a role that could be fulfilled by the superintendent and or the principal. And then there's actually look a little purple, but the 3 in blue, it lists members of the community with architectural engineering and or construction experience. The selectman appointed Dennis Roy. The committee could look for another member. Again, I should say this is not ultimately time sensitive at this point. The process is, this is one of the items that have to be checked off the list within 60 days. So certainly we want to appoint the committee as soon as possible, and then the committee meets, establishes itself, votes a chair. But if the committee didn't have a name, obviously we don't have another name tonight, you could add people to the committee later. And then again, I put in 2 in blue, I would assume that it would make sense to appoint some parent reps to this committee. So whether that's something that's delegated to the PTA, that you vote that the PTA at Pine Grove nominates 2, elects 2 parent representatives to the committee, that would also make sense. So,
Just so we could vote these positions that have people in them if we chose to, and then add people at a later date? Is that what you think should happen?
I also believe, like for the parents, I think it would make sense that if you took a vote to say that you would like to ask the PTA of Pine Grove, and then we can communicate that to the PTA, and I don't think you would have to have them come back to be officially ordained. I think you can.
Would these categories, the yellow blocks, should those each be done individually, or can they be done as a group?
I think you could. You mean individual votes?
Do we need to approve each person individually, or can we approve the group
You need to approve each of those roles.
individually?
You need to approve each of them, so I would say if you did that as separate votes, it's probably the cleanest.
Okay. Okay, so, so we have the, Brian, the first one's all set. That's you, right?
Should vote it, yeah. You have to officially vote it
Yes,
anyway.
okay. Could we have a motion to appoint Brian Forget, Assistant Superintendent, as the SBC member who is MCPPO certified?
So moved.
Could we have a 2nd
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Is there a school committee member who would like to be on the building committee? One or two, or? Oh, yeah.
That's true, I can take that. I'll grab Deb's for now. I'm interested in being in it, but I'd like to know what the time commitment is first, if you have any idea based on past building projects, because I'm just wary of overextending myself.
It's not small, is my understanding. I mean, I think it depends on the nature of the committee. Certainly the proposal thus far has been that this is not going to be, we're working on the figure of what would need to be appropriated, and there hasn't been any interest thus far in studying alternative sites, studying grade configuration changes, building footprint. So the study is not going to be as extensive, hopefully, as that $1 million level. But it's still going to be a major project. So it can be intense. I think there are certain periods throughout the process that the meetings would be more often than not. My understanding at the current time is this committee, between now and when the project would be invited into the feasibility and design period, the committee would need to meet one time. It would be literally establishing itself, voting a chair, and then that's one of the items on the checklist that have to be completed. There probably might, actually I take that back, there might be one or another meeting because there's a couple items on the checklist that it's mostly data that I have to provide, but I would certainly want to bring it back to the committee and say, does this make sense before we upload it to the state system? And then beyond that, I think during the planning period, it's intense. During the construction period, it turns into more of a management, and there isn't as much. And then obviously culminating, it can be busy as well, wrapping it up.
Okay. And do you
So is
know
it-
when the meetings are usually held? Are they an evening meeting, or are
It's,
they?
again, this is, the state doesn't have any.
Okay.
The committee decides it wants to meet every Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. That works.
Definitely not in for that,
So-
just for the record.
And it could be changed too. So if you said you want, if the committee said all the Raleigh members wanted to be part of it, maybe not. I thought I heard that. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't hear that, sir, just to be
I didn't hear
clear.
that.
You did
Okay, I'm
not.
just checking. I want to make
I was
sure
going to
it's
thinking
clear.
the same thing, that, I think, my personal opinion is that you would be a great asset on a committee because you have small children and grew up in the town. I think it would be great. And I trust that if it became more than what you could manage, that you would say so. And I can't imagine that it will. Just say it.
Brian said intent.
And the only thing I would add in is that if somebody else had to step in, for nights you could make it, I'd be happy to do that, just as a fill-in, and I think Dick would do the same.
Yeah, what I would do is appoint all three of us. And then if, no?
No.
No, and then,
That's not,
I can't do it that way, huh?
no,
One member and two others who promised to
Right.
fill in if you have a problem.
Exactly, ex officio.
Well,
And I think the reality is, by law, you need one person there to vote.
right.
Okay.
So if a vote is being taken by the committee or design, choosing an OPM or you're choosing a final design, you need at least one of you there. So I think if you have, there is one committee representative. It's currently Narissa. If Narissa's not able, then you choose the pecking order. You just decide.
Okay.
They fight between the two of them.
And as Brian said, if we need to amend this at some point we find.
So
okay.
that means that the other representatives of the town need to be named as alternates.
The alternates, yeah, right.
Yeah, they can't vote unless they are named
Okay.
as alternates.
Could we have a motion to appoint Narissa Wallen as the school committee member on the Pine Grove Building Committee?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Could we have a motion to appoint Paul Lees as the alternate member of the school building committee?
So moved.
Second? Discussion? All in favor? Could we have a motion to approve Dick Cummings as an alternate member of the school building committee?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All those in favor? Okay, good, thank you. Could we have a motion to appoint Christopher Walsh as the local official responsible for building maintenance?
So,
Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Actually need to appoint me as the superintendent.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Brian.
That's okay.
Could we have a motion to appoint superintendent-elect, on-deck superintendent, Brian Forget, as the superintendent representative on the committee?
So moved.
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Yes, thank you very much. Could we have a motion to appoint Christine Eland as the school principal on the Pine Grove School Building Project?
So, go ahead, Monique.
Any
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
You don't need to take a vote on that.
We don't need to take a vote on that. Okay. Done.
So the
Now,
question would be,
is...
How about
yes.
taking a vote for asking the PTA to...
Well, so, right, now, we're done with the yellow blocks, now on to the blue blocks. It's okay.
color-coded.
I know, it's very helpful. Would anybody like to, does anybody have any suggestions about that? Would you like to go through the PTA to find some parents who would be interested in being on the committee?
That would be the best way to approach it.
Does it make sense to have a school council member on there as well?
It
given
could
that
be,
they're-
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe the school council would be a better route to go because you have community members and not just parents. I think there would be, I think now that you mention it, there would be an advantage to having somebody on the building committee who is not necessarily a parent.
They are part of the governance, the formal governance
Right.
structure.
Any? Move it. Yes,
Or the school council makes a decision.
the school council would,
To nominate.
yes, would nominate somebody. Second?
I'll second it.
Yeah, so the
Question?
question, is there a certain number, up to so many?
Well,
I filled this in. I mean, there's no, it's for both the members of the community with architectural and other, there was one, and we can fill in.
well, why don't we say up to 2?
I would say two, just in case.
Yeah.
Same thing as before, if we
Mhm.
need somebody to vote.
Yep. So the motion is on the floor to ask the Pine Grove School Council to appoint 2 members to the building committee. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is to consider and approve amendments to the high school graduation requirements as recommended by the school council at its meeting on December 2nd, 2015.
I have to apologise to you for bringing this to you today. You'll see that the memorandum is dated December the 17th, and in discussions I had understood that there was still some more work to be done. It's clear from the document that that is not the case. You'll see from the memorandum that school council has been working on this for some time. The faculty have had an opportunity to comment, and the proposals in front of you are not unremarkable. The increase in the number of Carnegie units required to graduate reflects concerns about many students when they get into the senior year don't really have a reasonably full course load. The requirement to enroll in at least 4 core academic courses reflects the mass expectations of high school students. Biology has been added to make sure that there is a science as part of the experience. And it's already practiced that as far as world languages are concerned, and I will continue to call them world languages, Spanish is not a foreign language in this country. It is just not a foreign language in this country. And to me, it betrays a very kind of isolationist view if we continue to call them modern languages, if you wish, to distinguish them from Latin and Greek. But anyway, world language is a requirement that if they take, they have to take one. It should be the same language in each of the 2 years. So that is what you're being asked to approve. You'll also note that there was some discussion about other things that people were interested in, and they're, again, not surprising, financial literacy, civics education, and health education as being things that we need to consider to see how we can fit them into the schedule. So this evening you're being asked to approve the proposal 1 through 4. And over the page you'll see that we have talked with a number of other districts, some of them really quite distinguished in terms of their academic performance, in terms of developing their thinking and their proposal.
Could we have a motion to approve the 4-part proposal as presented?
So moved.
Could we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Dick?
Just on number 3, when you mentioned science, why can't we just say science as opposed to a specific subject? Could be chemistry.
Because biology is an MCAS
Oh,
subject.
okay.
So it is formally assessed,
All right. Okay.
whereas marine biology is not, for
Okay.
example.
Gotcha.
These requirements would begin fall of next year, correct?
They would be grandfathered in so that students who are already in the system would continue, but this year's freshmen, it would apply.
Okay.
Well, next year's freshmen.
Linda?
You're moving it up from 21 to 22. What is the requirement that's going to bring that 21 up to a 22?
It means that they'll have to take courses rather than doing other things.
Then electives or studies?
Yeah.
All electives count.
Electives count.
Electives count. Yeah.
So instead of taking...
But students can virtually, if they work very hard and take the right courses, they can virtually graduate at the end of their junior year.
Oh, yes.
And I personally think that, and I've said so many times, that's a disaster. The last thing you want are seniors taking their foot off the pedal as they're moving towards college. I've said before, if they were in Europe, in May and June, they will be taking national exams, the results of which would get them into university or not. And here we have students who essentially, if they apply early, they get it. Okay, they're bright students. They get in, and really, they don't have a lot of incentive to keep moving forward. So this will help that.
Any more questions or discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you very much. Unless anyone has anything else, I think, Paul?
I just have a quick question. Brian, could you give us an update on what's going on with the school business official? Are we...
Absolutely. We met today for the first time. Actually, Narissa is sitting on the interview committee as a representative of the finance subcommittee. We have a member of the Newbury Finance Committee from the town, and then the rest of the folks on the committee are within the administrative team and support staff. We had 16 applicants. We are interviewing 8 of them. We sat with 4 of them today, and 4 of them again, 4 different, again, tomorrow morning starting at 9. We'll work through lunch and hopefully have I would say 1, 2, or 3, hopefully 2 or 3 finalists to bring back, definitely bring back folks for a second round. My thinking is to have them meet with the district management team again, and I don't want to rush this, so if at the end of that process we still are not feeling like we have the right person, then I would keep going. But I would say, given the 4 we had today, there was at least 1 who we felt was strong, and I think there'll be some strong ones tomorrow, so I'm confident. So. And can I also give you some quick update on the stadium today? Filed subbids were opened for the trades. So those are for electrical, plumbing, HVAC. Those are now provided to the general contractors through through Gale Associates, the central register. We had 17 filed subbids for the varied trades. Those get provided to all the general contractors. They then incorporate those numbers into their base bid for the entire project, and those are due next Wednesday. So when we come together next week, I will certainly not be ready to give you a recommendation for a contract, but I will certainly have a sense of, when we open those envelopes, where the numbers looked. The goal at this point would be, we talked about other meetings. We have a meeting on the 23rd and the 30th. If I have approval through First Southwest, who would be issuing the bonds or the bond anticipation notes or bands first, if we open bids next week, gives us 2 weeks to review and provide you a recommendation to award a contract on the 23rd. That allows then, I think it's 10 or 11 days, and then still the start of construction on April 4th is possible. So that would be a substantial completion in mid-August. I'm sorry, partial completion in mid-August, which you'd be able to get on the fields, and substantial completion of the building and everything by September 14th. And there's a $500 a day penalty should that not happen. So
Hope we don't need the money.
I'm hoping, yes.
Could I ask Brian to report on a conversation he had with an attorney following a suggestion at the public hearing that if the costs came in such that the whole project could not be built, then the whole matter would have to go back to the towns. And Brian got some legal advice on that issue.
Yeah, the statement was made if, in editorializing maybe, but the statement was basically made that the statement that the project, the stadium project, was approved as designed, so therefore, if it's not able to be built in its entirety, including bleachers, then the vote to approve for Raleigh, it was an override, is null and void. I did check that with bond counsel, and that is not the case. The motion language said for the purpose, a debt exclusion for the purpose of the revision of the Triton Stadium project, upwards of $4 million not to exceed, and then assuming it's a 3.2 with the gifts. And they believe that that absolutely is not the case, that removal of the bleachers doesn't constitute the fact that it's no longer a stadium. Certainly, if we see numbers next week, that means we need to invoke those deduct alternates. I certainly will come to you hopefully next week and say we're going to have to rethink things here. I'm still hopeful that because we were the first bid on the street, and we are one of the only one in my understanding that would allow construction to start as early as April 4th, that by being willing to forego the use of the field for the spring, we could hopefully keep all of the general and subcontractors' families fed for the months of April, May, and June, and hopefully generate some better pricing. So I'm hopeful, but after 4.5 years of doing this, I'm eagerly anticipating next Wednesday.
Thank you. Any other items? Could we have a motion to adjourn? Could we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Paul, you let me down. All those in favor? Okay. Good evening. We'll see you next week. Remember, you have the 16th off. That's it, though.